Welcome to the Sam and Joe VA Show, where we teach women just like you how to start and scale a thriving virtual assistant business.
We're your hosts, Sam and Joe, and get ready to have the control, flexibility, and freedom you've always dreamed of.
Welcome to episode 118, Just Be Honest.
Yeah, without honesty, how are you going to build long-lasting relationships with your clients? And we're not talking about lying on purpose, like, big, fat, ugly lies to your clients, but we see virtual assistants lying by omission or withholding the truth because they want to avoid having what in their mind is a difficult or awkward conversation.
And if you don't have these conversations and be upfront and be honest, then you're just not going to have that trust, long-lasting relationship, like you say, Sam. And that's number one in my mind. That's number one for a virtual assistant, having a relationship with a client. Like, without trust, you cannot do work for a client. They won't
No.
have it.
No, I agree 100%. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And it comes down to fear. It's fear of how that client is going to respond to you being completely honest about something, isn't it? It's that fear around it. It's a fear about them freaking out or them firing you, them reacting badly. But I tell you what, if you are misleading a client, it is only going to bite you on the bum, and it's going to mean that conversation that you are you're trying to avoid right now is going to be even more awkward down the track when the shit hits the fan.
Oh, it's going to be terrible, like 100 times worse than what you perceive is going to be how the conversation goes right now. So we all have the perception, and often we think that it's going to be more negative than positive in terms of
Yeah.
what the outcome's going to be or how it's going to go. But if we remember that if we have a conversation up front and we say it in a way that instills confidence and not in like a dismissive way, but in a like, hey, this is what's happening. I've got it under control. I'll make sure that you're my priority, Mr. Client, and have got this sorted and I've got a plan. Now, that's a far better conversation to have than I immediately need to stop work because I just had a baby.
Oh,
So
yeah.
let's go through some of the kind of things that we hear virtual assistants withholding or not being truthful about with their clients. And let's talk through each of those because you listening may be withholding or not wanting to have a conversation around one of these things.
Yeah, we've got a few. Our list is quite big today. The first one, it's an obvious one. It's your health, whether that's mental or physical, whether it's an ongoing health issue that you have that could flare up and affect things, whether it's you've got COVID and you need to take some time off, or as Joe mentioned, maybe you're pregnant and you're afraid to tell your client because you don't know how they're going to react.
Mm-hmm. It is. Most of the time, your client is gonna be absolutely fine. They're a human. They understand that you're a human, and as humans, things happen that are outside of our control, and we have some kind of sickness or COVID, or having a baby is most of the time in your control. But, like, these are things that happen to us as humans, and it's part of life. So have the conversation. The client is gonna be more happy if you are upfront and honest rather than like in the midst of your sickness making mistakes trying to turn up to things, and then it becomes a long-term sickness that you have and it drags on longer because you haven't taken the time to recover.
Yeah, yeah. Or then it becomes if you've been hiding something and then even though plan A is that this client doesn't need to know about any of this going on, right? But
Mhm.
something happens and client has no doubt about the fact you've had that baby or you've got this major health issue that you've been hiding from them. You've lost trust. You've been lying to them.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, you can have a backup plan. You can have other options that help get your client through when you are sick, or you can make a plan with that client that doesn't mean that they're going to leave you and find someone else if you are expecting to have a baby. There's ways that you can work around that. Give them a backup option. You could
Yeah.
find another virtual assistant that you know and trust, and you could support each other and help cover in those times. There's lots of things, lots of ways that you
Yeah,
can.
yeah, yeah. I mean, reassure them that you've got the plan. This is your plan. This is what ideally is gonna happen, but if not, here is a plan B.
Mm,
No surprises. There's
mm.
no surprises.
Yeah, I think that's a really good term. No surprises. No one likes surprises when they're in a business to business relationship.
No, 'cause
Communication is
how
key.
do you get back that trust? Once you've
Mm,
lost it, how do you get that back? Because they're always gonna think, "Wow, they didn't tell me that they" I'm gonna use the pregnancy one again because that's probably the biggest wow one, all right, in terms
mm.
of a surprise, in terms of health. They didn't tell me that they were going through this for 9 months, and if they're not gonna tell me that they're having a baby, what else are they withholding from me?
Yes. What else are they hiding? What mistakes have
Yeah,
they made that I don't know about?
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Some of the others that are on our list is your working hours. So let's say that you might work a day job, you're employed somewhere, and being a virtual assistant is your side hustle. Now, if you
Mhm.
have a conversation with the client and they are of the impression that you can work anytime, and then suddenly you can't work anytime, like that's a trust issue right there.
Yeah, you have withheld a vital bit of information from them from day 1.
Mm.
I don't think you can come back from that. I
And
really don't. As a
yeah,
client,
no.
if I was hiring a virtual assistant that didn't tell me that they were only gonna be available at night, I mean, if they told me right up front, that would have been okay because as long as the work's getting done, I probably don't care when it's getting done as long as they're meeting those deadlines. I don't
Mm,
care when they're working. But
yeah.
if they withheld that and I was expecting them to be able to be responsive throughout the day, be like, "Why the fuck didn't you just tell me?"
Mm, yeah, yeah. And often we think that a client's not gonna be happy if we can't do normal working hours, like normal office day hours, but that's not true. We know virtual assistants personally that have done the side hustle thing and had a day job as well, and they had never had a problem with a client saying, "Oh, that's not gonna work for me."
No.
Like, they were more than happy because like Sam says, they don't care when the work's done as long as it's done.
I mean, you would have all heard how when I first started, I had a 3-month-old who was a very high kind of needs 3-month-old as well in terms of health issues. So I was really open and upfront. I was only going to be working during nap times, if nap times were even going to happen that day. Otherwise, at night and the weekends. They
Mm.
didn't care because the work was getting done and it was getting done well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then once you, or if you decide to grow a team or have subcontractors or other people working with you inside your business, then you need to be upfront about that as well. Don't hide that you have a team member working on their work when they think it's just you as a freelancer, and they get you and you're doing all of the work. Now if you have subcontractors, let them know that you've got a team. And this can be framed in a really positive way, like, hey, I'm going to make it all about you, client. This is awesome for you because you're going to have that responsiveness. This person has these specialist skills and they're going to support the work that we do so that we can deliver high quality work in a timely manner.
Yeah. Yeah, the fear around having this conversation is that the client who up until that point is used to you supporting them is no longer gonna want to give you the work if you're not the one personally doing it.
Mhm.
Once again, that life doesn't work that way. If if you've built a really strong relationship with that client, full of trust, that great trust again, they are gonna trust that you have hired the right people to support them to the same standard that you
Mm.
have.
Yeah, and it's that instilling that confidence when you have that conversation. Frame it in a way that makes it all about them and the benefit to them. And that client will be absolutely fine with that because you are so confident about it and you're not trying to justify or dismiss it in a like kind of awkward, weird way.
Yeah.
Just instill that confidence.
Yeah, and once again, that conversation, like if you are withholding that information that somebody else actually doing the work, you're not open and honest about that. The conversation that you then have to have once they somehow find out about this is
Mm,
going to be worse
mm.
than if you're just upfront.
Yeah. All right, next on our list is when you don't want to do something maybe for like a moral kind of reason or like it's against your
Mm,
values and it just kind of makes you feel icky or uncomfortable or just like you just don't want to do it. You've got to be
yeah.
upfront about that. Let them know.
Yeah. Also, even something that legally is pushing the boundaries. We've got a lot of
Mm,
bookkeepers that are in the VA space.
mm,
Um, or if a client is wanting you to ignore privacy or spam laws that are in your
mm,
country, and if that doesn't sit right with you, or if a client is wanting you to, I don't know, do run a competition on Facebook, and you know that the wording that they're using is
mm,
breaching Facebook's rules.
mm.
Just be honest about all this.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you are a business owner. You can say yes or no. And if you don't want to do something, then you just have to be upfront and let them know why.
Yeah, because
Mm,
sometimes they might not even be aware of
mm,
these kind of, like, pushing the boundaries legally or morally, or if you've got a client that is continually the way they work is not in alignment with your own morals,
mm,
then you need to question whether that is a right fit client for you.
mm. Yep. Another one we see fairly often is your level of skill that you might
Uh,
say you have is really stretching the truth.
yeah.
That's going to bite you in the bum.
It's gonna bite you on the bum. It is not gonna take long before a client, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. They are
Mm,
gonna see pretty quickly through the work that you are producing, whether or not you actually have the skills to back up you going, "Yeah, of course I can take that off your plate." They're only gonna be disappointed.
yeah, that's right. You I know that there's a lot of VAs who get into kind of desperation for clients kind of space. And that means that they may start to put their hand up for things that really aren't within their skill level. And it's not a good place to be because you're going to run into issues. Clients aren't going to be happy. They're going to ask for discounts, refunds, not
Mhm.
wanting to pay bills, like all sorts of things. And like you really, really try and stay in your lane in terms of your skills and what you can and can't do.
Yeah, reputation is huge, and so if you are going to do things like this, accept work that it isn't in your lane at all, it is going to affect your professional reputation. And people they definitely aren't going to, recommend you to people in their own networks. You're just going to stop getting work,
Mm,
which is the opposite to what you actually want to be doing. Because at this point, if you're accepting it because you're desperate for the work, once again, it's going to bite you on the bum.
mm. Yeah, and we see virtual assistants putting their hand up for things that they think that they can do because on the surface, like doing an e-newsletter in MailChimp, like often virtual assistants might think, "Oh, how hard is that? I know how to do that." You like go in here, there's a template, you fill in the details, you send to the email. But remembering that there's actually so much more behind the
Mhm.
scenes and in terms of setup and things that you may not actually even know are important. So make
Yeah.
sure that if the services that you're providing, you've really dug into what actually needs to be done or what would deem you to be a specialist in that tool or that kind of service. Because on the surface, it can look really easy, but
Mm.
that's not always the case behind the
Yeah.
scenes.
Just be honest. Just be honest with them. You know,
Mm,
some clients will, if you have already built a relationship with them and you've been working for them for a while and you've been doing other stuff that they're happy with, and then out of the blue, they'll say, "Hey, what about this?" And you know immediately you've got no skills and experience, but maybe you're interested in learning about it some more. Just be honest about that
mm,
because they might be willing to hand it over, but at least you're then setting some expectations
mm,
around the results of
mm,
what they're handing over to you.
mm. Yeah. Okay, next, let's have a chat about if a client's competitor
Mm,
approaches you and wants you to do work for them. Like, is that something that you need to be honest about?
hell yes, you do. I went through a stage, where for some reason I had sleep consultants, baby sleep consultants, just knocking at my door every day from around the world. I don't know. I think somebody must have shared something about me in some sleep consultant group. So they all came out of the woodwork. And of course, it came from the original client that I had that it was a sleep consultant. She was very, very happy with the work that I produced. But it was like, wow, okay, well, these other sleep consultants are in direct competition with my original client, and I was still working for this original client. So it was a no-brainer to let this original client know because I was still working with them. Hey, look, thanks so much for referring me to your crew, but now I've got all these people contacting me. So it's about having that conversation. She was happy. She didn't care, but I'm so glad I had that conversation anyway because there would be other clients out there that would be a lot more protective around their own stuff that I had access to than she
Mm,
was.
mm. And then, if you hadn't have told your sleep consultant client and she saw you producing and sharing other sleep consultant websites and you hadn't told her, she might wonder whether you've used some of her
Yeah,
content or thoughts or
yeah.
IP and, put that into the other websites that you did. So
Mm,
by actually speaking to her, it means that she doesn't have to wonder
yeah.
because you showed your integrity, you showed how professional you are because you told her. So, like, it just builds that trust so much by
Yeah,
communicating and letting them know.
it does. Just
Mm.
be honest. Just be honest.
Just be honest. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Another one, deadlines and budgets.
Mm,
If you know, like we know as virtual assistants when we are not going to meet a deadline or we're going to use up all of the budget for something. Maybe it's your service plan and you can see, hey, we're only halfway through the month and I've used like 3/4 of the budget. That's not going to work, right? So be honest. Just be honest. Let them know. Have that conversation.
yeah, or even accepting a new client when you know you're at capacity,
Mm,
and so you know there's no way that you're gonna be able to meet that deadline.
mm,
As much as you really, really wanna work with that client, they may be your kind of queen of ideal clients, the
mhm,
absolute, ah, when I think about my ideal client, this is them standing right in front of me. You're if you are then gonna disappoint them because
mm.
you are not gonna be able to meet their deadlines, ah, just
Yeah.
don't. Just
No,
don't.
just be honest. And if a client really likes you, wants to work with you, they will wait. I mean,
Yes.
they've probably had whatever they've got to hand over on their list for months and months already
Yeah.
anyway, and they want the best person on the job. And if they've come to you and like you have to say that I can't do this until next month or in 2 months, whatever it is, then that client, they actually want to work with you more because other people have paid you, have hired you, and so you become really attractive at that point. So
Mm.
don't be afraid to put them either on a wait list or like push the deadline out.
Yeah, they'll respect you more, and the same goes with current clients. If something's happened and it means that you're not going to be able to make that deadline that you originally thought you were going to be able to, just be honest and let them know.
Mm. Mm. All right, next on our list is if you don't understand what the client has asked you to do. But this
It's
happens all the time.
oh, it happens all the time. But you know what makes me laugh is when it happens to a virtual assistant and then they come into a virtual assistant networking Facebook group and then want that their kind of peers to tell them what is their clients asking for. How are your peers gonna know what the client's asking for? Just go and ask the client. Just go
Yeah.
and say, "Hey, can I have some clarification around this? I'm not too sure what you mean about XXX."
Yeah.
Ask the question.
Yeah.
You're
I mean,
not
that makes you come across super intelligent when you say that, not what you fear of, like, looking dumb or not knowing what to do. Like, yeah.
just ask the question. Just let
Mhm.
them know because
Mm.
you're gonna actually save so much time and angst around that. It is
Yeah.
much quicker for you to just go straight back to them and say, "Hey, I just need some clarification around this. I'm not quite sure. I wanna make sure we're both on the same page, so the result I produce is what you are expecting it to be,"
Mm.
rather than going away and guessing and it's, like, way off. Just have
And
the
you've used stuff all
conversation.
the time.
And you do that all the time, and then you feel bad because you know that it's because you weren't honest and upfront, so
Mm.
then you end up doing it, you know, redoing the work, but then you feel bad that, well, then I shouldn't charge them for that time because it was my fault." Once again, if you just had the conversation up front, it wouldn't be
Mm.
an issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Some
Oh,
great
I'm
language that
getting
you
ranty, Jo. I'm getting ranty, I can feel it.
No,
Oh,
there's some great language that you suggested in there. Yeah, client would be more than happy with that.
okay, cool.
All right. Next, uh, if you start to become unhappy with this relationship that you have with your client, they might start doing things like not paying you on time, not responding to questions that you have, last minute requests, things after hours, all sorts of reasons why you might be unhappy with your relationship. Now, if you
Yeah.
don't say something,
How do they know? How do
that's
they
on
know you're
you.
unhappy unless you're honest about it?
Mm.
Oh my god, this is another one that I'm just gonna rant about, I think. It just annoys me. It annoys me. Why does it annoy me? Why
Because
does
they
it annoy me?
complain so if a virtual assistant is complaining, not to the client, but complaining without actually having done anything about it or letting
That's
that
what
client
yes.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually don't wanna hear you whining about it if you're not prepared to do anything about it. There we go, I'm
Mm-mm.
putting it out there now. Don't come to me whining about difficult clients when you've done nothing to rectify that.
Mm. Let them know, let them know, "Hey, I need to have a conversation about your account. It seems that we are, often a week late. Is there anything that we can do to have you, um, be able to pay on time?"
Yeah,
Have the conversation.
have the conversation. And look, don't have this conversation by email. You know,
Mm,
these are big conversations. You need to be picking up the phone or you need to be asking for a Zoom catch up.
mm. Pick up the phone. It's a
Pick up the
great
phone.
way to communicate this difficult stuff. It's
Do
way
you
better
remember
than email.
Yeah, do you remember being in your 9 to 5, Joe, and it was time for your yearly performance review, and you'd go in and you'd sit down with your manager? And, I remember being told once that there should be no surprises in that yearly catch up.
Mm,
There should be nothing that you haven't already said to your manager throughout that year.
yeah,
And it's the same with clients. There shouldn't be any big surprises. There shouldn't be stuff that you've been pushing down for months and months and months
mm,
that's just, like, eating away at you.
mm.
It's just not healthy. It
No,
is not healthy.
no, it is definitely not. So pick up the phone, have those conversations, and just be honest. All right. We are all humans. We all make mistakes.
Mm,
Even your client makes mistakes. So if you have stuffed something up, just be honest. Let them know and do this really quickly. Don't leave this for days and weeks and months. Tell them straight away that you've stuffed up, what you're going to do about it,
yeah.
how this won't happen next time. Let them know.
Yeah, like, even if you've realized you've made a mistake and you've rectified it, I'd still be telling them.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Still be telling them.
Mm.
And it's one of those things, like, when you've stuffed up, like, as you've said, Joe, we're humans, we make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And your client is not gonna judge you on the mistakes you make. They're gonna judge you on how you then react to that mistake.
Mhm.
That is what they're gonna remember.
Yeah.
Not the actual mistake, but
Mm.
how you then dealt with it.
Yeah, totally agree. All right. Last one on our list. It's super important that if you have some kind of breach of security on your
Mm,
computer, or you get hacked, or your computer gets lost, or something that could mean that the data you hold for your client is jeopardized, you need to let the client know and
yeah,
what you're doing about it. That's the most important thing.
yeah. Has that ever happened to you, Joe?
We've had a computer stolen,
Mm,
and because of the way that we have set up the computers, we can wipe the computer immediately, and we have it fully tracked with our IT company to see, like, where it is, what someone has done, have they managed to get in, etc. So
cool.
there was no breach. The
Yeah,
laptop was stolen, but we could see everything on there. So, like, if you have a team, I think this is really important. Or
yeah,
even as an individual, if you don't have, like, some really great antivirus, malware, software, and some way of being able to wipe your laptop or find it, locate it, yeah, I think that's really, really important, whether you're a freelancer or have a team. Like,
mm,
protect that computer. Make sure you have a password to get into it.
yeah,
Make sure you have that antivirus, that malware. Yeah, and never hold information on your desktop, on your hard drive. Like, have it in the cloud, have
Mm,
everything locked with your password vault, so that you know that someone, even if they got into your computer, they couldn't access things because you changed the password on your password vault immediately. You, like, changed the password on everything that is your cloud storage, so they can't get in.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
And
important.
as you said, if there is a breach of any type, let your clients know immediately and let them know what you've done, what you had in place in
Yeah.
order to, kind of contain that breach, and then what you will be doing, uh, moving forward.
Mm. Yeah.
Honesty, honesty, Joe. It's a big
Yeah.
one. It's a big
Mm.
one. How can you establish trust with your clients without it?
Exactly. And these conversations, as long as you say it confidently that I have this under control, this is what's happening, this is the plan, I've thought about this, I'm not freaking out, there's no reason for you to freak out,
Mm,
and you're not doing it in a dismissive way, like, oh, there's just little things happening, but don't worry about it. Like, as long as you're doing it confidently and you've thought about this for your client is going to be more than happy, and it's going to show that you have integrity, and they are going to have a very long term trusting relationship with you. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Sam and Joe VA Show. If you'd like to find out more, head to the VA Foundry website to check out the Members Club and the amazing resources, training, and coaching.
You can find us at thevafoundry.com.